This is some pretty barren looking land out here, isn't it? We are in the area of Paris, California, not Paris, France. And I manage some apartments out here. Now, my sixth husband and I had sold our house in Temecula, and we were living in some apartments. They were very, very nice apartments, and they were expensive. Well, I wanted a job. I hadn't been working, but I wanted a job. And so I found an ad in the newspaper. Yes, we were still reading the newspaper. So I called them up, and I went to Upland, which is, I can't even tell you where it is. I didn't like it though. But I went up there to one of this company's other properties for the interview. And it was a gentleman, two gentlemen actually, they were partners. And I would be working directly for them. I can tell y'all, when you do property management, if you can work directly with an owner, usually that is so awesome. Because if you need anything, you want anything, if you have any concerns, you do not have to go through a supervisor who has to go through their supervisor. It's not like that. You don't have all those layers. You get almost an instant answer and solution to your problem. So both of these guys interviewed me, and they hired me. So the property was in Paris. It was not even open yet, y'all. They were in the middle of construction. But they went on and hired me because there were a lot of things I could do. Now, when you have a property that's under construction, once you get to a certain point, you start leasing, pre-leasing apartments, so that when you get one phase completed, all the inspections are signed off on by the city, and you're ready to fill that phase. Now, the sooner you fill up a new property, the lower your interest rate is going to be. So, let me tell y'all, that was a challenge for me because I had never opened a brand new property. Now, I was thrilled, y'all. These two guys were so nice, and I was getting paid a good salary. Plus, we got an apartment and our utilities as part of my compensation. Well, we had to wait to move in because, like I said, it was in construction. But we got one of the first apartments that was available. Now, y'all, I had so much fun. They let me decorate the leasing office any way I wanted. Now, this was a big property, y'all. But I picked out all the furniture. Yeah, well, it wasn't pink, but it was a little on the feminine side. I got to pick out flooring, countertops, all kinds of stuff, y'all. It was a lot of fun. I had to hire staff. I hired this young Hispanic girl, and she was pregnant, y'all. Not very, but she was showing a little bit. So one of my bosses wanted to interview her as well. So we met at Denny's, and I told her, I said, I want you to get there early and we'll sit in a booth. Now, I know, y'all, that was kind of sneaky on my part. I had interviewed several ladies. No gentlemen applied, or I would have interviewed one of them too. but several of them had applied, and she, I thought, was the best candidate. She was young, she was eager to learn, she was enthusiastic. I loved her. Her name was Ramona. I loved her so much. I still look at pictures of my staff from that property. I also had to hire a maintenance supervisor, and we hired another gentleman as well. So I actually had 2 offices on that property. One was the main office, and then I had an office down in the huge rec room, which had a big screen TV, DVD player, lots of DVDs for the kids, and they were going to put in a tennis court. So I called the guys up and I said, you know, if you guys get time, I'd really like to talk to y'all face to face about something. And of course they were like, what? And I said, well, just come on over. So they did. In a couple of days, they made some time and they came over, and I sat them down and I was talking to them, and I said, guys, I said, this area has a lot of children in it. Oh, now this was a low-income apartment community, y'all. So anyway, I was letting that sink in. So anyway, I told them, I said, I know y'all want to put a tennis court in here, but I really, really would much rather have a basketball court, a full-on basketball court, outside, of course. I said, that basketball court is going to get much more use than a tennis court ever would. I said, these people around here don't play tennis. So they did. They redesigned and they made a huge basketball court. That's one of the things that was so awesome, y'all, about being in on the construction of a property. The rec room also had a kitchen. I loved my job. Now, it was really challenging. I said that before. When you're pre-leasing apartments, you are only speculating about an opening date because things can go wrong. And the first phase, I had to call all the people that had pre-leased an apartment and tell them it was going to be an extra 2 weeks. Now, my bosses said it was going to be an extra week, but I wasn't taking any chances, y'all. I did not want to have to call these poor people again. For some of them that had given notice where they lived at the time, they had to try to extend their notice or scramble around.
In 2 miles, take exit 29 for California 60 East, Moreno Valley, freeway toward Beaumont, Indio.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, I did not want to have to call them again. So we did open up that phase, and those folks were able to move in. Now, y'all, I got that property leased up in 3 months. They could not believe it. So they were able to lock in a lower interest rate, which made them ecstatic. So I got a $1,000 bonus, y'all, for doing that. Now, was I happy about that? Oh yeah. Was my husband happy about that? Oh yeah. So anyway, that That's the story of that property, and it was called Redlands Town Square. Now, when you lease up a new property, your criteria is not as strict as it would be on a regular property. But once you had it leased up and you got that interest rate locked in on the mortgage, then you had to start weeding out your bad people, which of course you got some, y'all. There was no way. And like I said, your criteria was not as strong. So I started having, I don't know what stronger criteria. Your credit score had to be a little higher. And, you know, things like that. So I did have to do some evictions. But even though this property was a low-income property...
In 800 feet, take exit 29 for California 60 East, Moreno Valley, freeway toward Beaumont, Indio.
I'm sorry, y'all, but I just don't want to get lost.
Take exit 29.
So, I had to do some...
Continue on California 60 East, 418 miles.
And evicting people is never fun, y'all. It's terrible. But if people are not following the policies and not paying their rent on time, you really have no choice. Because you're not going to be able to rent to nice people if it gets around, and Paris was a very small community, y'all. I mean, they were not a big city. I don't remember what the population was, but it was pretty small. So when your property gets a bad reputation, guess what? You can't find good people that want to live there. So that's another reason why it's necessary to make sure that you have good folks on your property and your property has a good reputation. And mine did. Now, I had a lot of parties for the kids, y'all. A lot of parties. I even had 2 sleepovers. Oh yeah, y'all, sleepovers. I was crazy back then when I was young. And we would do fun things like we would have the guys. I had all kinds of stuff there. Fingernail polish, polish remover. We had all kinds of fun stuff. And I had eyebrow pencils there, eyeliner pencils. And so while we were doing manicures with the girls, the guys would use this makeup and draw big eyebrows and mustaches and stuff, try to make scars out of red pencils. We had a blast, not to mention all the movies we watched. Now, we had a big screen TV, lots of DVDs, many treats, popcorn. I would bake for days before we had these sleepovers. But it was so much fun, y'all. And I always had candy in my office. And when they would all come flying out of the school bus, they could come by the office and get a piece of candy, just one, out of my candy dish. And my deal was, when they would get a piece of candy, I would say, now what do you do with the paper? And they would say, put it in the trash or put it in our pocket. And I was like, yep, that's good. And if you see anybody throwing trash on the ground, you tell me. They will not get any candy. Now, I'm telling y'all, those kids, they even picked up trash off my property. They would take a bag and go around, and if there was any trash, they would pick it up. They could bring that trash bag to me and get a special treat. Now, y'all, I'm going to cut it off. I'm at almost 15 minutes. And y'all do something fun today. And I will talk to you later.